A strong customer base is one requirement for any farm business. How do you build that customer base and then strengthen the relationships that you have with that customer base? That's what we're talking about coming up. Welcome to Grassfed Life. I'm your host, Diego, D-I-E-G-O. Today's show and every show is brought to you by Grassfed Life. Here at Grassfed Life, our goal is to help you be more profitable on pasture, whether that's with pigs, poultry, or cattle. We want to help you achieve your farm dreams. We know it's not easy to build a farm business, whether small or big, so we want to make that building a little bit easier. From free resources like this podcast and blog articles to our online courses, learn more about making your farm more profitable at grassfedlife.co. For today's show, I'm talking to farmer Charles Mayfield, and the whole subject of this episode is customers. From how do you strengthen relationships with existing customers to getting new customers in the door? How do you turn somebody from a maybe into a yes? The whole goal of any business is to build long-term customers who come back time and again. So today, Charles and I are talking practical strategies for getting more and better customers so you can sell more. Let's jump right into it. Charles, last episode, we began that episode talking about one of the realities that you were facing with your layers. They're getting up there in age. They've been through a few molts, and you were trying to decide, do I give them away? Do I send them to freezer camp? What do I do with these birds? So here we are a little over a month later. What have you decided you're going to do with those layers?
Yeah, Diego, we're going to load up the turkeys and the layer birds. I'm going to ship them off for their one bad day on Monday. And I'm actually going to take a cue from you. I'm not going to sell any of them. I'm going to probably put one or two in my freezer just to experiment with the slow cooker. And then also I'm going to give them to clients that get turkeys as a stewing hen, as sort of a conversation item, as a thank you. And so that's the strategy. It's not that many birds. I think it's 34 layers. And so, it's a couple $100 to get, well, let's see. Yeah, it's a couple $100 to get them all processed basically. And so well worth the investment to sort of build. All it is a seed for, this next batch is 100 chickens. And the one after that will hopefully be bigger than that. So that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, is this a advertised freebie or a surprise freebie that turkey buyers will be getting?
I'm gonna do a surprise freebie, and I have the methodology behind that, frankly, is not everybody's going to get one of these. So if I advertise for it, someone inevitably is going to be left without a bird that really wants one. So I'm just sort of hand selecting my top customers, if you will, and it'll be in there. It'll get delivered to them when I drop their turkey.
Yeah, I like that idea, and that whole thing of customer appreciation has been on my mind a lot lately. I was packing stuff up myself this morning to send out to customers. One of the people who ordered has been a regular customer. They're a bigger farm. They get a lot of stuff, so I threw some extra stuff in the box, just knowing that, hey, this person keeps coming back. I want to keep them happy and give them some surprises along the way to say, hey, we're paying attention. We care. Because I think, customers are hard to come by, especially good customers. I know that from the finance side. You know that from the insurance side. And then with the farm side, when you look at your overall spread of customers, do you definitely see a group of customers that are not the norm in terms of positive experience? Like they're really good and you got to do your best to cultivate them?
Well, I would say my customer base at present is so small that it's a little easier to pay attention, but it's also mostly seeded with with very close friend relationships that were in existence prior to us starting the farm. So as much as I feel like I could count on their honest feedback, um, they may be wanting me to feel better about myself, if the ground beef's a little off, the grind or something like that. But I tell you, this is a good one this is a good segue into, I know, some questions we're going to talk about later, but I did a corporate lunch and learn. A friend of mine has a small IT based company in Atlanta, and we talked about this on the last podcast or not, but he had reached out to me. Hey man, love what you're doing. Do you mind coming down and talking about what you're doing on the farm? And he was interested. It's a health and wellness quarterly sort of employee education event. So he wanted to tie in sort of local, regenerative food with human health. So it's right up my alley in terms of talking. And he said, do you want to bring a product sample down or two? And I said, well, how many employees? Oh, we've got 12 employees. And I said, let me do this. I said, I'll charge you a flat rate per, and just let me put a chicken, a pound of ground beef, and a pound of sausage together for every one of your employees. And, I discounted a little bit, but basically took him a huge cooler of food down there. He doled it out to everybody. And I tell you what I'm going to pull this email up because this is the kind of stuff that absolutely makes your day. So a guy reached out to me. This is a month later. He reached out saying, can you do a turkey for me? Sure. And we sort of went back and forth. Here's how much it's going to cost. I don't know how much it's going to weigh. Went back and forth. And he's like, well, we eat. When do you come to Atlanta? This is one of the employees of this group. When do you come to Atlanta? We go through this and this and this almost every week. I'd love to get some more food from you. And so I responded back, and he sent me this huge order. And I was like, oh, man, that's great. Here's what I don't have and do have, blah, blah, blah. So in his explanation, here it is verbatim. FYI, the reason for the order is I got your beef, sausage, and chicken when you came down to our company. The burgers I made were honestly the best I've ever had, and I've had some pretty special Japanese Kobe burgers. The flavor was just unreal, and the sausage was fabulous as well. So I'm really excited about the rest. Anyway, so that was it. So back to your point, I think of paramount importance is the product. The product needs to absolutely stand alone and speak for itself. And I think when you engage with your customers, engaging in a sense that allows them to talk about the product, I think that's important. And then when you start talking about making them feel special, man, if you just bring them if you deliver an experience like this guy's writing about, I think you're going to be in a pretty good place.
Yeah, I mean, that's what small purveyors are really selling. I mean, you're selling an experience, you're selling a positive result, and that's flavor, that's, texture of the meat, that's quality. And I think, I think about this a lot as a small business owner. Small businesses tend to have small customer bases relative to Walmart, relative to Amazon. And I always ask myself the question, am I doing enough to re-engage with my customer base? Because I may have a few thousand customers, and that's more than maybe a farm that has a few hundred. And I think, okay, am I doing enough? And sometimes I feel like I'm not doing enough to reach out and just say, hey, how has your experience been with this stuff? Or do these little special things. When you think about everything you have going on off farm, like you're working, and then you got the farm, and you got everything that goes along with keeping farm production moving forward, how do you try and recreate some more of these experiences that, 1 out of 10 may turn out like this, 9 out of 10 may fall flat, or you may not hear back from them. You need to build the customer base. You want solid customers, but these things don't always pay off. They're not always guarantees. But it sounds like from doing it, they're worthwhile.
one thing that I think any farmer can do that is a nice marriage between make your customers feel special and aligning the things that you need to be doing with the things that you want to be doing is every opportunity I get to talk to any of my customers or see them face to face, I always invite them to the farm. Now, less than 10% of our customers have ever been to the farm. And these are, maybe 20%, but certainly 10% of our out of town clients have ever been up here. But that invitation, that openness, I think is something that makes anyone feel special. It's like, hey, come over to the house tomorrow night and watch a movie with me. Whether they can come or not, they feel special that you thought about asking them. So, and there's nothing I love more than customers coming to the farm. Generally speaking, when they come to the farm, they're going to experience at least one farm chore with me. And I sort of wrap that up in, hey, let's go check out the chickens or the pigs or whatever the case may be. So I'm sort of getting something done, delivering an experience for them. And they feel special because their farmers taking them around and showing them stuff. So I think that is just sort of a utilitarian approach to just always invite people to the farm. I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that's a tool. In terms of other stuff, so I've been tinkering around with a bunch of value added products. I got all this. I love lard. It's unbelievable. We've slaughtered, I forget the total number now, a total of like 20 some odd pigs since we started. And I try and keep as much of the back fat as possible. I'm actually bumping up against freezer space. So I started tinkering with, lard based products. So, I just made a face moisturizer. I've made some soap. I've started making a few, other products that are sort of fat-based products, and none of those are for sale yet, right? I mean, obviously, I'm tweaking and trying to get the recipe right and the finished product right. But in the process, somebody came to the farm the other day and, hey, man, here's this bar of soap I made. Take it home and try it out and see what you think. And I actually got a call from that guy the next week. He was asking me another question about pigs. And he said, oh, I meant to tell you, my wife loves the soap. And I said, well, that's great, man. I really appreciate it. He says, well, let me explain. She says it's good soap, but it's the best soap she's ever shaved her legs with. Now, I would have never figured that out. And now I've got this, sort of a marketing ploy. Here's something I can market my soap about when I'm ready to bring the soap around. So, I think using that, utilizing your tinkering, we went through a ground beef experiment about a month and a half ago, getting the coarseness and the fat content ground to some specs for a chef that's ordering for me in Atlanta. And so we did a 80-20, a 75-25, and a 70-30. Now that is some fatty meat, right? 70-30 grind. It was the best tasting. And the guy that emailed me that's a new customer now, he either got the 75-25 or the 70-30 grind when I took them down their beef. Now, this is some funny stuff for you, Diego, but imagine going to the store and if the beef was labeled, I'm not trying to hide anything from anybody here, but if the beef was labeled 30% fat, 70% meat, nobody would buy it, right? But then you eat it, and it's the most flavorful thing ever because that's where all the taste is. And so I have communicated that to this gentleman. I said, look, you got this grind. I'm not saying, I'm a big proponent of fat is healthy. I went through all the nutritional stuff, but but I wanted him to understand if you really like it, here's what you ate. And it's one of my personal favorites as well. Oh, and by the way, when you're making the burgers, you don't have to wet your hands because there's enough fat in there. The meat never sticks to your hands. It's the most unbelievable thing ever. But utilizing those little tinkers and tests, and I mean, I think that's important. And hand delivering are I always do it with one-on-ones. I'm going to Atlanta in 2 weeks. I'll pack up a special little cooler of little nicks and knacks and treats and thank yous. And, when so-and-so comes to pick up their stuff, oh, by the way, here, my last food drop, I gave out 25 little, what are the little jars, the little 8-ounce mason jars, the little teeny ones, maybe 4-ounce. I gave out a bunch of jars of leaf lard. Here, thank you. I wrote up a little thing. Here are the benefits of, pastured leaf lard. And hell, man, I've sold since that day, I've sold 15 pints of leaf lard at $20 a jar.
This ties into something I heard in an audiobook recently, and the guy was talking about how when you have a customer, when you have a business built upon reoccurring customers, it's really important to get them in the door. And anybody listening to this, if you have a farm, your business is built upon reoccurring customers. This is not, I buy it once and I never come back. Purchase. And a lot of times, the hard part is getting that customer first. And traditional thinking, or a lot of, say, guttural thinking is, a free sample of lard is going to cost me, $5 by the time I buy the jar. Or my first chicken that I want to sell them. Let's say, my cost into a bird is $12. I'd retail it for $24. If I sell it for $12, I'm not making any money. But the whole idea is, like, I'm hearing what you're saying. The best soap I ever shaved my legs with. The best tasting burger I've ever had. If they never find that out, then they never come back. And sometimes to break that barrier, to get them to try it, to find out how miraculous a product can be, is you have to lower the price hurdle enough for them to say, I'm going to take a flyer. And I've done this recently on my site. We sell a lot of nursery flats. And ultimately, I want to sell somebody more than one 10-pack of nursery flats. And I had them initially priced it, well, okay, if I'm only selling 1 pack, I need to make some money off of it because it's just a pain to ship 1 when I can ship 4 just as easily. But then I said, I was listening to what the guy was saying. I want you to buy multiple packs over time. So if you buy your first pack, I'm going to basically eat it. I'm not making much, if any, money on that. I'll cover my costs. But I want you to get them, use them, see how much you like them, and then hopefully come back and start buying stuff at regular price. And hearing what you're doing with the leaf lard, it's just a farming example of that. Because leaf lard, that's one thing. Americans have been trained away from fat. Leaf lard might as well be, motor oil from a lot of people. Like, it's not getting in the kitchen. And so there's an immediate, I think, barrier there where it's like, here, this is free. Try this. Here's all the ways you can use this. And then they try it and they're like, wow, okay. But you try and get them to fork that $20 over on that first pint, and it's hell no. Like, I'm not paying for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, so you said something to a beginning farmer out there. So, see, I get it because I went through this. That first chicken you finish or the first dozen eggs you gather or whatever, that's your baby, right? And you don't want to give your baby away, right? But the reality is 6 months from now, 8 months from now, 12 months from now, you're going to be overstocked in some stuff. Like that chicken that you wouldn't dare part with for less than $5 a pound. You're going to reach a point where you're going, holy crap, I've got to move some chicken out of here ASAP or I'm running out of space, right? So I understand the attachment to that first product off the line, especially for a beginning. I went through the same thing as a beginning farmer. It's just, you got to understand Well, to your point, and this is the reason why I think eggs are such a great enterprise to start with is, all in, you might have, I don't know, $3 or $4 in a dozen of eggs. All in, I'd have to look at my numbers and update them, but and that's such an easy barrier of entry. If you're growing pastured pork, I would tell you start. None of your customers, if someone orders a half or a whole hog, I've been down this road a number of times. You drop the half hog off with them, and there's these 2 or 3 or 4 bags of back fat, and they're like, "What do I do with this?" And I'm like, "Well, you can render it into lard." And they're like, "Oh man, will you just take it? You just take it, right?" So that was part of the way how I accumulate all this stuff. Well, and I'm a crazy man, don't want anything to go to waste, but so what did I do? I piled all this stuff up. I found a guy that would grind it down for me. I spent basically an entire day in our church's commercial kitchen, and I rendered 20 gallons. I rendered 20 gallons of lard and leaf lard in a day. And of course, it's all in jars. And some of the jars I left out and they've gone bad, so I tossed them, but I put a bunch in the refrigerator and I put some in bags and froze it. And so now, it's so easy for me now. Like, I'm going to Atlanta in 2 weeks. If I wanted to do the lard thing again, or if I did another corporate event, go thaw one of those bags out, go spend another $8, $10 on these little bitty mason jars, fill a bunch of jars up, and lard's one of the best because it's like, what do I do with this? Well, you can cook the best biscuits you've ever tasted. You can rub a little on your face at night before you go to bed, and oh, by the way, it's going to be unbelievable what it does for your complexion. Or you can fry in it. Or, I mean, it's like the Swiss Army knife in the kitchen.
Right, and you probably have a price, like your pork, as though that's a throwaway, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a complete. I like to call it a value add because anything I can do with that fat is cream on the top. I mean, it really is.
And so you don't have much into a pint. You can sell them for $20. I mean, it's almost like you give away the lard. You also give away some soap with it too, because it's like, hey, now here's another use for the lard beyond being able to consume it, because that soap is taking a value add and it's value adding it even more.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I got to probably get a few more molds on the soap front, but yeah, next year will be the year of the lard. We're going to seed our customers with all sorts of various lard-based products. And I had another customer come down yesterday from Knoxville. This is an older couple, and they're like, "You weren't lying. Those are the best biscuits we've ever had. So we'll take 2 jars of your lard home today." Now, just wrap your brains around $40 for 2 jars of fat, and it's like, yeah, man, you just gotta get it in their kitchen and get them using it.
Yeah, I mean, look at coconut oil and some of the other things out there, like they've just taken off. And one thing you were saying around early stage farmers is, an attachment to that first product. And it's this potential danger of short-term thinking. When you do produce, say, just 100 birds or a limited amount of product, you feel like that's your everything. You want it to cash flow, pay some of those expenses back. But really what you need is that 100 is the segue to thousands. You need that 100 to get customers who come back again and again and again and build more. If you sell those 100 at a profit and you don't build long-term customers out of it, it's kind of like, that was great, that was an exercise, but we don't have a business. So leveraging the early stuff of, hey, I'll sell, you're a new customer, you've never tried stuff, $26 chicken's going to shock you. I'll sell you your first chicken for $10. I'll eat a little bit on it, but I don't care. I'm so confident in this product. I know you'll come back again, and I'm going to make up the $16 I'm not making on this bird for the next 2 years. or I'm going to give you this lard, or I'm going to give you a dozen eggs that I have $3 into. Who cares? So I like the idea of giving something away and looking at everything that you're producing to get your own giveaway. Now, eggs are great because they just show up in quantity and they don't cost a whole lot. Lard's a great example. I even think like chicken backs. If somebody comes up to your booth, starts talking pastured poultry, might a way to get them into it be like, hey, you've never tried pastured poultry? Try some, do you make stock? Do you make bone broth? Here, try some chicken backs. Try some chicken feet. If you can't sell that stuff. Because I've heard, farmers, they'll just give those away or compost them or sell them for a little bit. And I wonder if you could just, again, it goes back to like your layers. Could you take something that you couldn't sell and now make it more valuable than zero by saying, hey, this is special. Try this. It's free. Here's what you can do with it. And then a customer's like, hey, it's a back. They didn't pay anything for it. You priced it so you didn't sell the back. And they already feel indebted to you because you gave them something for free. And then if they make a good product out of it, maybe they're back for more.
In a lot of ways, I don't think it matters what you give them. Well, let me explain. So we've all gotten that gift that someone in the 11th hour for your birthday or whatever went to Target and just spent money because they needed to, right? Or even when it's food, like the difference between you going to the grocery store and buying someone a cake versus you making them a cake is those are two completely different universes, both quality, obviously, but also in appreciation. I mean, this is maybe my own personal opinion, but in the farming game, your hands have touched every single aspect of, with the exception of maybe laying the egg, right? Your hands have touched that, making soap, rendering lard, chicken back, all of it. So it's first of all, understand that emotional connection and just because you're going to have to talk about it at some point. Someone's going to they're going to ask you about that. But understand that if you give this to somebody with the story, they're going to appreciate it so much more than a coupon to the local grocery store or any gift you could possibly give them.
Earlier this summer, I was reading about this experiment that someone did where people sold a bunch of random thrift store stuff on eBay. And each of these items had a unique story written about it. Like they gave the item a personality. This is like a lampshade or a throw pillow or a single bookend. But it's like, here's Bob the lampshade. For years, I've illuminated a retired professor from Harvard who would sit his nights under me reading about astrophysics. Now you can behold the aura that I bestow. They crafted this up and they showed, like, by doing this, these items were garnering much more money than the same thing without a story. And they had fictionalized that. So, I mean, going into this realm, it is what differentiates amongst producers, not just from commodity producers, but the other people selling what you sell or near-term products. So when you think about your story, when you invite them out to the farm, or even invite them to call. I mean, you might have noticed this with insurance. I definitely saw it in finance, and I see it with Paper Pot. If somebody calls me on the phone and I talk to them, that generally results in a sale more times than not, because I can answer questions. I can show them, I'll give them honest answers. I'll show them knowledge. I'll tell them why. I guide them towards the right thing or guide them away from the thing that they shouldn't be buying that they want to buy. And people are appreciative of that. And I always would recommend now to people, have on your website, have questions, call us. We'll answer anything. How to cook it, what's involved, about their bulk packages. But if you can get somebody on the phone or face-to-face or to come out to the farm, that's pretty valuable. And it may seem like you're wasting time, but in a business that might only require I don't know, 100? What do you need, 100 customers maybe to make a living on a farm your size? Like, you can invest some time.
That's a complicated question, but I would say you could get away with making a comfortable living farming with 100 customers, assuming you sold more than chicken, or eggs or beef. If you could provide your average family, let's just say of three, if you could provide your average family of three with the majority of the beef, pork, chicken, and eggs that they eat in a year, then it wouldn't take you more than 100 families to have a hell of a farm, I would think.
I guess where it could get complex is the walk-off. Somebody buys a pound at a farmer's market or something like that. And that's kind of the gravy. But for a lot of farms, they're not necessarily just farmers market farms. Their bread and butter is these bulk programs, and those numbers add up quickly. Thinking of all the salesy stuff that you're doing, we're at a time of year where Thanksgiving's coming up. How have you marketed your turkeys? This is something that's always fascinated me because you have big birds, heavy birds, high dollar per pound, $100 turkeys in some cases, or a lot more. How have you approached this?
Our first and foremost marketing efforts are always to our customers, current customer base. And so, months and months and months ago, everybody knew we were, ordering turkeys, and then the turkeys are here, and who wants a turkey? And so I over ordered. I have 100 turkeys this year. We grew 50 last year and only 36. Long story. Ended up making it home from the processor, but so we got plenty of turkeys this year. So marketing to our current customers, reminding everyone that people like to eat turkey on Christmas too. So sometimes people are they're big, so they take up a lot of room in your freezer. So you may not unload both turkeys, the week before Thanksgiving, but you'll unload 2 turkeys because they'll end up coming back to the farm or something like that. So I always remind folks about Christmas. One thing that's worked pretty well for us this year, and I've got to find a way to sort of scale it up, is corporate gifts, like employee appreciation gifts. I've got one customer that is buying 20 of my turkeys. Now I've given him a 50 cent per pound cut on his price. But they're employee appreciation gifts. That was a hell of a way to move 20 turkeys with one phone call.
Was that a suggestion that you had for this person, or did they come to you looking to do this?
He was a customer. He tinkered around with a couple of our birds last year, and he does a pre-made meal program, and so he was looking at our pork and our beef, and we were having lots of conversations. This is actually the same guy we were doing the beef testing for, and he actually brought it up last year as oh, you've got turkeys. He came up to see the farm. Oh, you got turkeys. I'd love to get some. And I actually I could not end up giving him the number of turkeys he wanted last year because we had such a debacle with the butcher. So, this time around it was, all right, man, I know you want turkeys. I want to go ahead and earmark you for your employee gifts and even gifts to family. I mean, this guy's in the culinary world, so he sort of likes giving foodie gifts. And planted that seed a long time ago. Right now, I've got about 35 turkeys that are unspoken for. And so the big question mark I've got right now, and I'm sort of making a big last push this week to make sure everybody tells me they want a turkey, because I'm probably end up grinding some of them up and turning it into just ground turkey meat, because I know I can move that. I've got some clients that I know would just eat that up. But yeah, mostly just interpersonal marketing to our current customer base, and just reminding them that if their neighbors want one or want to try one, just remind people you have turkeys to sell, as opposed to just sitting back and expecting everybody knows, oh, well, Charles doesn't need to sell any more turkeys.
Yeah, I like the idea of the corporate appreciation gift. Thinking about that, I mean, one thing is it's nice to obviously move 20 now. Like that counts today. In a time of year when finances may be tight, that's important. Thinking long term, I mean, is there a potential that any of those giveaways turn into future customers? And or are you doing anything to accompany that turkey to explain, hey, here's who we are? But then again, maybe this person's just like, hey, you can't do any of that. Like I'm just going to buy them. I want to give them away. You can't include any sort of marketing.
That's a good question. I don't believe, I mean, he's a good friend and wants to support the farm. So I don't believe he would have any issue with almost like a turkey insert flyer.
Cause I'm thinking like you're already delivering like the payload, like let's maximize impact, and they're getting the turkey, they'll be excited. And my thinking is like, hey, it's free, and any literature that I'm probably going to want to read it, like what's the deal with this turkey? Maximize that.
Yeah. Well, there's so many possibilities that sort of stemmed for me out of this corporate wellness talk I did. And, admittedly, I haven't capitalized on that as much as I should have. It's just, you wear too many hats, but, obviously employee wellness is a huge hot button, right? I mean, it would be hard to, especially in the small to medium sized business world. It's just it's an intimate environment. And so, I can think of a number of scenarios that would be similar to what I've already done, where the owner, the business owner, I mean, that's basically like an employee appreciation gift, right? What he bought and I brought to that educational talk was an employee appreciation gift. It just happened to be farm products. And so, that could be a real winner.
Or maybe that's where the lard or the soap accompany the turkey, because turkeys are obviously seasonal. That's a one a year type thing. If somebody loved the turkey, they can't really come back and get one. Where maybe the lard, I don't know. People rub chickens in butter. Could you rub lard on a turkey to make it taste better? Fold it into your stuffing or mashed potatoes. I don't know that, but that's another product that accompanies the free one that people can buy at non-Thanksgiving times of year.
Yeah, I think you stumbled onto a really important thing when it comes to, that's probably the challenge with turkeys is if you're trying to sell more turkeys, you should have seeded that customer, if you will, long before the turkeys are here. They're already used to buying stuff, and by the way, I need a turkey. Do you have any? Well, of course I do.
Well, your turkey itself, what are you retailing that for? A pound?
We retail at $5.50 a pound, and the birds are gonna. What I've been telling my customers, this is another little thing I add to my customers, is when I send them an email out, I do one of the MailChimp deals where it's an automated, click here and it automatically pops up an email that comes back to me. And I put in there, I would like blank number of turkeys at about X weight. And I had already communicated that our turkeys are going to finish anywhere from 10 to 6 pounds. And, some people like a smaller turkey, some people like a bigger turkey. And so it's just, rather than it be completely random, whichever one I'm going to pull out of the freezer, if someone wants a 14 or 15 pound turkey, I want to try and deliver on that expectation. It's just it's a built-in expectation in addition to this is going to be a really good tasting bird. Oh, and it grew up this way, blah, blah, blah. Imagine a customer that wants a 10 pound turkey gets a 16 pound turkey. Or worse, a person wants a 16 pound turkey and gets a 10, it's like.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics here. And this is an interesting model. Like, I'd be curious to hear how you handle in some other things, which I'll bring up in a sec. But by the time this one airs, people will have heard how Luke Gross is selling his. And I'll give you the free preview early. He's basically divided his up into small, medium, large. And there's a set weight range. So I'm making this up because I don't remember what his range is, but it would be like 10 to 12 as a small, 12 to 14 as a medium, over 14 as a large. Somebody buys a large, they get they get in the large category, and they've paid a set price for that based upon an average he thinks. I don't even think they're paying by pound. So maybe they get a 19, maybe they get a 15. It's the same price. And it just removes this logistics of him trying to say, okay, turkey A goes to customer B and like that. When you're doing it on your end, one, are you taking a deposit? How are you handling payments? And then is it just, hey, I'm trying my best to match up what a customer wants with what I actually produce?
I have listed that I take deposits. Most of my customers have already deposited money with me. And so if I picked up a new customer that wanted a turkey, I would gladly take a deposit from them, but I don't actively do that. Maybe I should. So I will pull out the turkeys. So client A wants a 14-pound turkey. All right, here's one that's 13.96 or 14.12. Their name goes on that turkey, and it's set to the side.
And then on physical delivery, then are they coming to get it, and are you going to have to go through 100 turkeys and say, okay, here's the A's, here's the B's, this is John Doe?
Yeah, good question. Good question. The bulk of my turkeys will be delivered through the food drops. The turkeys that I know are going to be picked up on the farm, I will have the customer's name on it. And what I'll probably do this year, since I have so many more turkeys, is I will house all of the local turkeys in one freezer and point my customers to that freezer. Everybody else, it's their names on it, and it's packed up in their cooler with the other stuff that they've ordered when I go on the food drop. So, if I show up in Atlanta and, Angie comes up to get her turkey, well, I've got Angie's cooler or Angie's bag sitting here and her turkey's already in it. So, yeah, I am sorting them out. And it's interesting you say that about what Luke's doing. I'm probably going to go to that method next year. In fact, I've already started thinking about doing that with the chickens. Like, rather than per pound, just create, 2 or 3 subcategories within chickens or turkeys. The reason I haven't done it to this point is it sort of adds another layer of inventory management from a freezer standpoint that I'm not capable of at this point.
It's a model that I think has a lot of potential, and Luke and I get into this a lot on the episode that will have aired before this one, and then he's going to come on for a future episode, which will air sometime after this one, where he'll kind of report back, how did that actually work in reality? Because he's hypothetically testing it based upon some other models he had heard. But I like the idea from a business owner standpoint and a consumer standpoint of, like, just give me my options, limit my options, and then I know what the price is for what I'm paying, versus going and trying to say, okay, well, how much does this one weigh? How much does this one weigh? And I got to find some sort of bird where the weight price ratio meets my expectations. I'm the kind of person, like, I like the idea of just saying, I want a small. It's just going to be me eating this. Give me a small one. If it's 4.2 pounds or 4.7 pounds, who cares? It's all going to average out at the end of the day. And I don't think most consumers buying this type of meat are nitpicking that much ounce per ounce or, for 50 cents to a couple bucks either way.
I agree with you. I do think, we sort of stumbled upon the rare exception when it comes to that with these turkeys. I mean, I think you can solve that with the delineation, small, medium, and large for sure. Uh, because you wouldn't want small and large. You'd need a medium because the consumer's familiar with all that. But the turkey it's that like that one thing. Like if I was expecting, and this is my model right now, if someone was expecting a 10-pound turkey and got a 16-pound turkey, that's a problem. Um, the other thing too about going into this sort of the small, medium, large categorically with both birds, your chickens and your turkeys, is once you take like your inventory and purchase capability online, it really makes that easy because you're pulling from a distinct inventory spot, and the customer's paying a flat rate. You don't have to deal with any of that.
I wonder if being able to go online adds a lot as well. I use WooCommerce to sell stuff, and it has really good inventory management. Somebody buys item A, it lowers my inventory by the quantity that they purchased. It keeps track of it. So periodically I do a count to true it up and deal with my accounting, but the e-commerce software keeps track of it all. If I do, say, a cash sale offline, then I do have to go in and adjust the inventory, but it's not a big deal, and I think it's actually valuable for many reasons to know what your inventory is. But if you can put your meat sales online, which is the way like a lot of things are going anyway, right? Like where you can just buy stuff online, maybe that opens up more of an audience. Because right now, for a lot of farmers who are predominantly, say, farmers market sellers, the idea of going online, it's almost impossible because if you have 100 birds in the freezer and you don't have categories, you have 100 unique SKUs. And for somebody trying to buy that, there's just no way to put that into software, where if you do categorize it, now you have one item on your site, you have a drop-down menu where it's just, I want this range, and they pick the range, and it's small, medium, large, or however you define that. And each of those ranges has a price associated with it. Bam, it's e-commerce ready. And if you're going to go online, I'm pretty confident that's the direction you'd have to go. You have to simplify down and do some rounding and some averaging just to make it logistically feasible. I mean, is that something you'd think you're thinking about, is listing stuff online?
Oh, for sure. Well, my predominant method of consumer access is this food drop system. Obviously, they can come to the farm as well. And we sort of, I don't know if we've ever touched on it, but it's basically an honor box. They just write down what they take, and when the sheet's full, I rip it out and put it in my spreadsheet, and if they still owe me any more money or whatever. But for my out of town clients, or even for someone that I'm not a farmer's market guy, but for someone that was going to a farmer's market, if you had a consumer base to go online, and this works for me as well. I'm going to go to Atlanta in 2 weeks. I think it would be a lot better if I could send an email out, say next week, and say, all right, folks, I'm heading your way. Everybody go online and order what you want. And so, they order, we pack it up. I'm skipping ahead to the idea that, chickens and turkeys would be small, medium, and large. That makes boxing up and packing up way easier because now I'm not tracking someone's individual bird. But for someone that goes to a farmer's market, like Darby, Darby, he does his farmer's market presence serves as both, I'm going to sell stuff to you today. Oh, and my current customers can come pick their stuff up. So, that may be a way. One of the downsides that I've always sort of felt like with farmers markets is a lot of people don't come there to shop. They come there to be seen and pick around. You don't need to see a lot of people rolling through a farmer's market with a igloo freezer trying to fill it up. So, give them an opportunity to, before they come to the farmer's market, purchase a full cooler of goods and then you just got it there waiting on them, and it's already paid for. They just show up and pick it up. I mean, that would work. That would work very similarly to how my food drop would work. They've ordered it, I've picked it, it's packed, we hit the road.
I've been talking with Ben Hartman a lot lately, who does a lot with lean farming on the veg side. And if you think about routine customers, engaging with them more than you need to could be seen as a form of waste. Like, sure, you want to continue that relationship, but you having to ask them, oh, you want your usual, and then pull it, like that's kind of a waste. Where if they know before market I could order it, it's paid for, and then I just pick it up at market, you could still have that communication, but you're not wasting transactional time, and maybe it's a convenience for them because they're not having to on the fly think, oh yeah, what did I need? You give them a little bit of a discount to go online and order. I like that. I mean, I like the idea of having that possibility. It also allows you to do, say, pre-sales. If you're sending out an email, if you do a farmer's market on a Thursday night, hey, pre-sales, I'm taking orders now, but now you have a way for them to not just order, but to pay, and a system that logs all that. It kind of caters what you need to bring to market if this gets big enough, because there's no more guesswork if you have a set known amount of sales.
The other thing too, and I've heard this is from Darby and a bunch of different people, is as a farmer, when if I go to a farmer's market, it's a shot in the dark in terms of my inventory and what I need to bring, right? And so, and customers show up and they're not sure what you're bringing. So this online inventory, not only are you allowing them to order while they're in their kitchen, looking at their shopping list, thinking about planning the week or whatever, but you're also giving them access to your entire inventory, assuming all mapped through into your software. And so, if so-and-so orders 20, so-and-so orders 20. What are the things that Darby sells all the jalapeno brats?
Jalapeno cheddar, yeah.
Jalapeno cheddar brats. So he gets a new customer that orders 20 jalapeno cheddar brats, and they haven't ordered that online. So they just come, they're the first one in line, right? They're the first one, and they clean him out, which is great, right? It cleans him out of his jalapeno cheddar brats. But if they had ordered that a couple days before and paid for it, two things happen. One, he knows to pack more brats. And two, they don't have to show up at the crack of dawn because they know they want 20 brats, and they know that he always runs out. And so it's a super win-win.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many benefits. One thought I have is you can create packages, seasonal packages, like give people suggestions, both based upon what's seasonally working and maybe what you're long on and you want to move. They might give you some sort of price incentive. So it's like, because email is a way to communicate that. Trying to communicate that on a sign and verbally at a market, it gets cumbersome. Oh, if you buy, 2 packs of brats, you get sausage at $2 off a pound. That kind of gets lost. Where if you can put a nice email together, there's that. And I also think it keeps it exciting if you're maybe offering a new bundle each week. I mean, look at Starbucks. If you're on their email list, they're constantly sending out like, hey, try our new drink. Last week they had this Witch's Brew Frappuccino that you could get. And if you could kind of create these things that people could maybe are seasonal or special or limited inventory and build some buzz around it, you take it from just selling meat week after week, which honestly, that can be boring. And now you're injecting some excitement, some change, some I'm looking forward into it. You're curating it a bit more. But without that online system, it's much harder to do on paper manually. So again, just maybe another idea there for people to take some of this online. And I mean, a lot of this episode, I didn't plan this starting out, but it's kind of us kicking around ways to move more product and get rid of product that you can't sell or you're long on, and trying to find different ways to value add.
Well, and full disclosure to your listeners, I don't have my product inventory online. I'm not doing online sales. Obviously, they probably already picked up on that. These are things that I very much am interested in doing and am entertaining as we speak. I'm not there yet.
Well, I used to work in finance, and one thing my boss always used to say was like, I wish we could record our pitch and just have it so when somebody called up, you could just hit play and they could hear it, versus like some days I literally hear him say the same thing 20 times a day. And that's what you're doing at a market. That's what you're doing face to face. And don't get me wrong, it's not that that's wasteful. There's definitely value to that face to face conversation, but there is a waste component to repeating the same over, which can be done now digitally. So if you can get this out there on social media, on your email list, you've at least maybe gotten some of the bulk part of the conversation out there. Now you can answer specifics. Now you can add color. You're not wasting a bunch of their time on this huge, massive storytelling. And I do think it is more convenient for them, like you said, while they're sitting there looking in their fridge, looking at their shopping list, trying to meal plan, versus trying to do it on the fly when you probably already feel like the vendor's staring at you anyway, like, with the eyes of steel saying, make us buy something.
Well, follow me on this situation. So Darby's at his Indianapolis market, and he's sitting there talking to two prospective customers, right? And he's giving them that spiel, and up walks one of his customers. Oh, hey Sally, here's your order that you placed, and he pulls out this massive, cooler of awesome stuff. The conversation with Sally now is, obviously there's pleasantries and all that, but he's actually having a conversation with the two people standing there, even though he's not. He's like, oh, here's something else we offer. And it's live and real and visceral. And it validates that his stuff's good, right? Because someone's coming, they filled this entire cooler up with stuff.
But different people are going to want different things. In the week that our previous podcast airs, on the veg podcast that I did an episode with a microgreen farmer, Justin Gay. He's in Southern California. He sells microgreens two ways at his farmer's market, and he's learned to do this through experience. He sells live cut microgreens, meaning he's cutting for the customer when they're standing in front of him. But then he also sells the same exact thing as a grab and go pre-packed. And if you think about that from a meat perspective, is there an analog to that? Some customers, they don't want to screw around. They just want to roll up, get what they want, and go. Have you made it easy for them? But then you also have the customers that want the show, the presentation, that have the questions. So you're facilitating to both sides. And whether that's online or at the market, there's probably different methods that need to be put in place to cater to both those groups. And if you're not catering to both those groups, maybe you're leaving something on the table.
Yep.
It's been a good one. A lot of ideas out there going into winter here for people that want to see how times change on the farm in Tennessee as winter rolls in, where are the best places to go to stay on top of Mayfield pastures?
The best spot is probably Instagram, Mayfield.pastures. But that's where I push everything through, and some of it feeds through to Facebook, and you're welcome to go there as well. Or reach out to me personally anytime with questions.
There you have it, Charles Mayfield of Mayfield Pastures. If you want to follow along with everything that Charles is doing, be sure to check him out on Instagram at Mayfield.pastures, or just click on the link in the show description for this episode. If you want to learn more about everything that we do here at Grassfed Life, be sure to check us out at grassfedlife.co. There you can listen to a whole bunch of past podcast episodes. And if you want to take things to the next level, be sure to check out some of the courses that we offer, from our pastured poultry processing course, which teaches you how to process poultry on farm professionally, to the profitable pastured poultry course, to the full-blown farm business essentials course. A complete system, A to Z, on how to start a farm-based enterprise. Everything that you need is in that course. Learn more at grassfedlife.co. That's all for this one. Thanks for listening. Next week I'll be back with another episode. Until then, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.